Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. My name is Drax de Dupre and with me again is Joe Yardley.
Hello.
Hi, Joe. And you weren't here last week because you were not invited because we talked about paper books and stuff like that. So I figured...
I can't read.
I know. But well, you can write though. I mean, you wrote the announcement that if in Berlin you are a furry, then you shall be exterminated, I guess.
No, we've very politely asked people to change.
Very politely, like Donald Trump.
No, that's me in real life, kicking people in the face, and that's just extremists.
Let's leave these terrible real life references. Real life is bad enough with Trump and terrorist attacks and stuff like that.
Tell me about it.
Let's get into some more wonderful escapism. No, not really, because today on the show, fascinating conversation, Jonathan Richter, a.k.a. Wainbrave Bernal in Second Life. Wainbrave Bernal in Second Life. That's got to be the best Second Life name. He teaches at Salish Kootenai College in Montana, and he's been in virtuality for arguably about 30 years, as we will learn later in the program. He's been in Second Life since 2003, and his father... It's actually pioneering sort of a VR theme park of sorts in the early 90s. And Joe, can you believe what it was called? The concept was called Wild West World.
Wouldn't there be copyright issues with that?
No, they had Yul Brynner's corpse reanimated and play himself, if you get what I mean.
I don't think it was dead by the time.
Really fascinating stuff. John will also tell us his thoughts on education in virtual worlds. Again, is one of my favorite topics. We go deep into context. John was at the University of Oregon at the Center for Advanced Technology and Education. And that's later, the featured interview, but we'll also talk about what's new in Second Life and VR in general, of course. Quick housekeeping notes, you can get in touch with us, ping the show's Avatar Drax Files, send us press releases, such as the sci-fi convention that is still going on. Joe, I don't know, that's nothing for you, that's in the future.
You do know that time travel is sort of science fiction.
Right, maybe you originated in the future and then came back to the past. I mean, that is theoretically a possibility, I suppose.
Yes. I do have to deny that in public, though.
You can email us at radio@draxfiles.com. You can become a sponsor if you have a business, or if you're an individual sponsor, you can take out a voluntary subscription. We have great sponsors like Feroce SL, run by Apsy, who I profiled a while back. That's the one fashion magazine that I read. I mean, I don't read much, as you know, other than paper books.
Especially not fashion, apparently.
My flip-flops are top-notch mesh. Come on, Joe. And as you know, I started my own store to support this show and the video series, and we'll be adding items every 3 to 4 weeks. Right now, the hot item on the shelf is the I Want to Believe shirt. And even Joe, I think you got a shirt, although you don't wear it, but you're supporting everything, which is very cool.
Yeah. I don't wear shirts.
I just want the money. I don't care if you wear it. No, seriously, this is a pledge drive of sorts, and you wouldn't believe it. I actually put this on Facebook last Saturday. I was a little tipsy, and
you?
I put the word out on Facebook. If you want to support this show, pick up this shirt. I asked who is from my Facebook friends who is in SL, and I got an unbelievable response, and people got the shirt, and this is really making this show happen and the video series, because it takes a lot of time, a lot of resources to put this together week in and week out, and the video series every 5 to 6 weeks. So thank you so much for your support. Now, let's go to the main news topics. I don't know if you heard, Joe, that InSilico is offline. We talked about it off and on. It's now offline again, and Skills Hack, the owner of InSilico, who is not an uncontroversial figure, to put it mildly. He basically was banned, and she was banned, and the stuff is gone, and that affects, of course, a huge community. Your response? I mean, I heard from Star Raven, who was on the show, she's really heartbroken and completely depressed, but and I really don't want to diminish this, but the problem is the Sims are owned by a person who gets into trouble.
It's very problematic because it looks like anyone can get into trouble, especially as we don't always exactly know what happened. And it can be something completely harmless. Linden Lab has already said publicly that they sometimes make mistakes, and the idea of losing your account, even temporarily, and your sims, just because something goes wrong, or even because you earned it, is horrific. And even though Linden Lab has defended this quite logically, saying we can't share our side of the story, there are so many people saying that they've been banned without any warning, without any explanation, and they've been sharing chat logs and on forums and things like that. And the main problem, it seems, is that when you get banned for something, even if it's temporarily, you want to know exactly what it is you did. And it seems like Linden Lab sometimes just says, well, you broke terms of agreement at point this, point that, without actually saying, it was that thing that you were selling that somehow someone didn't agree, blah, blah, blah. So you can say, oh, right, well, I don't agree with it, but now I can avoid it. I can stop it. I can do something about it, because that seems to have happened in 1 or 2 cases where people just said, I got banned. I didn't know why. And then I got banned again, and I still don't know why.
Well, as we said in the past, this is not an uncommon practice in other platforms that where people do creative stuff. But in Second Life, of course, it has a different impact, because for many it's a means of income. But I want to ask you concretely now: how should Linden Lab, if you put yourself into their shoes, let's just assume Skills Hack did something really terrible that is completely clearly against the terms of service, and if Linden Lab wouldn't have moved ahead, they would be in trouble, because they might have gotten sued, and then maybe the whole world would be down. The problem is that Skills owns in silico, but his banning affects hundreds and hundreds of role players, affects arguably a landmark of Second Life that, they advertise with. Linden Lab advertises with the fact, here, look at this vast sci-fi world that people create on our platform. Is there a scenario that would have made it a little bit less harsh a fall for the people who are involved in that world?
Well, you see, that is the problem, because that depends exactly on what the problem is. If it is something that has everything to do with the entire in silico sim, then no, then they have to stop it, then they have to shut down. But he got banned or she got banned, so it has something to do with her or him. And so what is it? If it is something, one item that they made that they shouldn't have made, or that they shouldn't be selling, then just remove the item and tell the person what the problem was. But even if it was something really, really big, especially with a sim like that, I think probably Linden Lab should have said, this is exactly what happened. This is exactly what the problem is. So in silico, people can say, right, okay, we understand it's the end of in silico, so be it.
I have an idea. And the idea is take it down, contact the people that are on file, some of the higher ups in the in silico hierarchy, the managers. They have several sim managers. This guy, this gal is not coming back because she has done terrible things, and we can't allow that. But we are going to offer a sim transfer to you guys.
That's very complicated, because then you're giving someone else's property away.
Ah.
And because in Berlin I built 99.9% of all the buildings. I custom made all those textures, and I would be very miffed with Linden Lab and probably sue them if they gave that away to someone else, even if I was banned for a good reason.
Don't the terms of service say that everything belongs to Linden Lab anyway?
Yeah, but I still uploaded it. It is still my art. So, my lawyer might say those terms of service are nice, but they don't, we don't care. Mm-hmm. We're still going to sue. Uh-huh. And so, it's quite complicated. And, one thing that could happen is something that I would love to see happen is for Linden Lab to automatically deduct tier from your Linden dollar account. Mm-hmm. That way, if you die or if you leave, or even if you get banned, but your sim does not get banned because it's a personal issue, your sim can live on for as probably forever, as long as people keep paying you rent.
Well, I mean, that's another thing that actually I think we talked about very early on in the birth of this program is what do you do when you die? And there are certain things that I think we should revisit this topic, because I think it's paramount that you put something in your I mean, it's part of the will, but there's actually a simple form that you can even kind of get from Linden Lab, I think, and then it's clear what happens when you pass away, who gets the account and who gets access to the account, because that can happen, and then everything is in fact gone.
So it's it is a complicated matter, but I think
but basically you're saying that what I propose is not a solution, because in the case of in silico, because it might open another can of worms.
I think there are too many hooks and eyes and problems on this to work. There's just you're dealing with someone else's property and stuff, so it's too complicated. But it all depends on the reason why someone is banned, and that is why it's so important that they in detail exactly tell you what's wrong with what you've done.
Yeah, otherwise it's just completely dystopian, and it's scary. And even if you don't know, I mean, we don't know what happened. Maybe there is a very, very good reason, but the public relations fallout is frankly huge, because these are hundreds of people who are now out of a place to live in SL, and they have hundreds of friends, and that kind of passes on. I mean, I would be very concerned about that kind of fallout.
Absolutely. And, of course, we've only got one side of the story here. Perhaps Linden Lab has been extremely detailed, and we're just being told that is not the case. But, yeah, looking at everything I've heard so far, it does seem, not just in this case, but in several cases, that Linden Lab sometimes is just not clear enough. And banning someone is a huge deal. And if you don't know exactly what it is, you can't avoid it. You can't avoid it happening again. If Linden Lab was absolutely clear, and perhaps with permission, or just gave themselves permission, I mean, they write the terms of agreement, if they could tell the world what exactly happened, it is something everyone else can avoid. I mean, what if another 2, 3, 5, 10 sims have to be closed down because of this one mistake, and they aren't told exactly what's wrong?
Exactly, but I cannot think of a reason why they cannot disclose what happened, or maybe even a more generic blog post that doesn't sort of accuse anyone in particular, like person XYZ had that and you better not do it, but maybe a blog post that says, okay, look, we want to bring your attention to certain things that you should not do. Number 1, bestiality items. Don't own them because you're going to be gone.
All of these things, Linden Lab will say, are already in the terms of agreement. It probably has something to do with, a small detail, something that they say, look, that's not acceptable. But someone else thought, well, doesn't sound so bad. I mean, it is really difficult to judge what happened without knowing anything, really.
So, real quick, Joe, PlayStation VR was announced for $399. The rest of the stuff is around $800. I mean, at least in Europe. Let's paint with a broad brush. Do you think this is a huge thing? Do you think it's a huge market? Do you think this means that VR is going to completely go nuts this year?
It might actually happen, because this is the kind of price that people say, you know what, that's not bad. It sort of depends on what you can do with it. I mean, PlayStation already has a huge market, so they probably know how much they're going to sell. They've got a really broad idea. That's why they can bring the price down. It's a very aggressive pricing, and if everyone who owns a PlayStation is going to get one, VR is going to get a huge boost.
I mentioned Kaleidoscope VR, which is kind of a roadshow of VR. They're going all over the world, and they have sort of they have Gear VRs and other headsets, and I think they book big spaces or museum spaces. They've been in Berlin and Cologne and in London. And you know where they're going to be as we go to air, Joe? They're going to be in Amsterdam at 8 p.m. And you can go there for €20, and then you can get all sorts of virtual reality experiences in there. Is that something that you think makes sense?
It's fun. It's probably quite interesting. There are so many people who do not have a virtual reality headset and who have no access to one. So getting as many people as possible to try and put one on and see what it's like, no matter what they do with it. I think that helps. Just like in the 1940s, they were, putting televisions in exhibits everywhere so people could actually see television and realize that it is fantastic.
Very good point.
So this is good. This is fantastic, because until you've actually tried one of those headsets, you simply do not know how awesome it is.
Mm-hmm. And thankfully, all Kaleidoscope VR, the cities they go to are Paris, London, Tokyo, Berlin. Okay, I say this, of course, with a sarcastic undertone, because, and again, I mean, your point is well taken. I think it's a good idea, but we need to move a lot faster in terms of democratizing it. Again, I mean, brings me back to Broken Record, brings me back to Second Life. Second Life created communities and is really democratizing access to this. Yeah, we can talk about walled garden, but come on, this is a walled garden. You have to go to Paris to pop on some goggles in order to see this content?
Yeah, well, a while ago, I don't remember where I read it, don't remember who it was, but some
elitism
store, some big computer game and CD and music store, put a few of those headsets in their store for people to try. Of course, when commerce takes over, everything works better. So, it is about giving as many people as possible access. Give them a try, and, the technology will do the rest.
Make it so.
Okay.
I came across a while ago, but Loki Elliott reminded me that these guys are actually putting pedal to the metal. This is a VR design engine, voxelus.com. This looks incredibly interesting. If you watched their video on the website, it looks very easy. You can put virtual reality experiences together very quickly with voxels, those blocky things. Just
like instruction videos by Linden Lab about Second Life.
Good point. I mean, instructional videos always look a lot easier than the actual truth.
It looks so easy. I'm still learning things, and I've been in Second Life for 7 years. Just the other day I was thinking, oh, I can do this as well. Mm-hmm. It does look quite nice.
If those features really work like that, I mean, they are ahead of the curve in many regards. Also, real quick, they have their own economy, the voxel currency, and they are announcing a marketplace for models where you can monetize the stuff that you're building on the platform.
From the videos, I got the idea it was more like a game building engine instead of a world building engine. Right now, I don't think I could build a 1920s role-playing community in Voxelus.
That's true. The visuals in the video, they suggest the aesthetic is a little bit cartoonish, let's say, and then they have an example of some space station. But I mean, I would assume that the visual aesthetic is really not confined by anything. If you upload stuff that you build elsewhere, or you get realistic models.
Does it allow us to have a rental system where people pay those real money thingies into a box every week? It looks okay, but it feels more like a game engine than a world engine. Just like there are quite a few others out there at the moment who offer you loads of things, but they are quite limited in how free you can be. And as long as Sansar is going to give us the same freedom we have in Second Life, that's the only way another virtual world can lure me away from Second Life, is that if I can do exactly the same, but better. So far, I've seen nothing, including Sansar, that offers me that.
Okay. All right. Then you also will not be swayed by .bigbang.com. I'll link to it on the blog.
It looks adorable, but it's not for me.
This is made by former Linden, Robert Anderberg. Is it Robert Anderberg?
Yeah, I think it's on YouTube. His channel, it's called Robert Anderberg.
Robert Anderberg, yeah. He was, I forgot his Linden name. I met him in person once. He was very gung-ho with Linden Lab, and now he went to Google, but he's building this in his spare time. This has nothing to do with virtual reality per se, but I think it's a pretty cool game design thingy where you don't need any code. It looks neat, but again, Joe, you will say I can't build Berlin with it, so why would I bother?
Well, it's not for me, but I play games as well, so it looks quite fun. It looks very, very pretty. I think it's great.
A lot of stuff happening, enticing people to create content. And well, we shall see, as they say. Now, let's go to a little music break. We stay with Choo Choo, this duo from Japan. I'm going to play it until the cows come home every week now. They're longtime Second Life musicians, and they're actually successful in the real world. Can you imagine? This is a tune called Teardrop. Here's Choo Choo. And that was Choo Choo with a tune called Teardrop. Let's move on to our feature story. Jonathan Richter chaired the Department of Arts and Design at Salish Kootenai College in Montana. Is a longtime virtual worldler in active worlds. He started in 2000 and he started in Second Life in 2003. He's the founder of the Immersive Learning Research Network. I wanted to talk to him for the longest time, and finally we do. But the reason why I talked to him now was actually that an article was posted about his father, Clark Richter, who wanted to build a gigantic theme park franchise, arguably the first VR theme park. That was in the late 80s, early 90s. It ultimately didn't succeed. Real quick, the article in the Missoula News that talked about Jonathan's foray and his family's foray into the VR theme park business in the early 90s, of course, quotes Second Life in one sentence. So upsetting, Joe. Here's the quote from the article. Virtual worlds have been popular and in use for a long time. Second Life, where users can create avatars, interact with others, and simulate all aspects of real life, peaked in 2006.
Well, it sort of did, didn't it?
God, I know. I'm so defensive.
But yeah, why not right? It's been going strong for 12 years.
Yeah, why not while the peak or I don't know, many hundreds of thousands of people still find a creative enjoyment in the successful platform. Why not say that?
And it is a $1 billion per week business or whatever it is Ever keeps telling us.
Not per week. The numbers is about 600 million US users use it annually. But that is really substantial, and there's nothing that even comes close to this. So anyway, nothing new about the press putting down SL, and nothing new about me being defensive about it. But our conversation is a good one. I'll go to tape right away. One more thing, John mentions Chris Deedy is a very important thinker that I wasn't aware of, professor of learning technologies at Harvard's Graduate School of Education. We'll link to his work on the blog. So let's roll tape, and educators, as well as VR hipsters, I don't know if anybody listens to this podcast, listen closely because cautionary tales of VR for education are afoot. Here's John talking about how he got into Second Life in 2003.
I started an avatar in 2003, poked around a little bit. It didn't stick. I didn't really get any colleagues or friends. Kind of dropped out for a couple of years, but it stayed in my mind. Really, Havre, Montana was so rural that we just didn't have the bandwidth either. But then I moved to Oregon, and they do a lot of work with students with learning disabilities using computers. Really got involved with developing online classes for students specifically for learning disabilities, and that was fascinating. But my boss, Lynn Anderson Inman, a fantastic woman and academic at the University of Oregon, she's now retired. But she really encouraged me to develop my own research agenda. And so going through my recent past, I said, hey, I wonder what's going on with the virtual world scene, and picked up Second Life again. And this time it really took. Wainbrave, Bernal, my avatar, took hold. And I really started, finding colleagues. Philippe Tuque at Chilbo became a really close friend of mine.
What was your experience with learning? Did you use Second Life to work with the kids with learning difficulties? Did you use Second Life at the time? And what was your experience, the good, the bad? What worked, what didn't?
Yeah, oddly enough, we really didn't do a lot of work with the students with learning disabilities with the virtual worlds per se. There was a lot of discussion about it, but at CATE, we had the National Center for Supported Electronic Text, which is ways to look at hypertext and the way that hypertext can act as a whole series of supports for people with disabilities, including learning disabilities, but how can you help them comprehend what they're reading? So a mouse over, it could be up to a simulation. You could have a passage on World War II that you would be reading online, and you'd click on it, and it would take you to Second Life or a virtual world with a simulation of World War II where you can actually get that perspective taking, because in virtual worlds you can take the perspective of almost anything, which gives a learning potential unlike any other kind of technology.
But the logistics, I would think, it's complicated. How do you actually get in there? Then there's all these steps that even quote unquote regular people is. The reason why SL is not growing is because regular people don't have the patience to go through these steps.
A lot like the old school systems. They're sort of cobbled together with various levels of standardization that make it kind of a Rube Goldberg contraption. It really requires people at each of those interfaces to hold it together. And working with students with learning disabilities in public schools, it just becomes too top heavy and difficult. That's not to say that we could not have written some grants and done that, though. never became the focus.
I want to stick with this subject. This is fascinating because us who have lived through various sort of hype cycles of this technology, we see ourselves now with the new guys, and some of them are the older guys. Philip Rosedale is again out there on the stump, basically saying, this will transform education. I mean, if we would get a cent every day, we read online some sort of related headline, we would be very rich. I have my doubts. I mean, I see this potential, but then just because you've been on the ground, I mean, what were really the main issues of implementing this in the classroom? Is it class size? Is it maybe also acceptance of maybe administrators? Some may be skeptical. Is it the good old-fashioned firewall, or I mean, what are the issues?
Public schooling is still very focused on efficiency. You only got students in a given class for 1 hour, and they're very, as a consequence, low tolerance to technical issues. Things taking a long time to get the class ready because they really need to hit the ground running. You also have the problem of Second Life looking like a video game, and video games mean play, and play is not what you do when you're being efficient and getting things done.
But that's an issue of I hear the administrators saying that, well, we don't have time, we got to plow through, we got the tests going.
There's a lot of instructional design problems in Second Life as well, where there is a huge amount, or in virtual worlds in general, there's a huge amount of educational materials, but not a lot of educational materials that's specifically designed for the environment of a formal classroom with all of their constraints. And so I think that's been hard. But we learned this in the Salamander project and through Merlot. A lot of, as much hype has been put out there, as much marketing has been put out there, and as many people like you and I who have worked hard to make people aware of these things. Awareness is the biggest barrier to access to most K through 12 teachers, at least in the United States. They just don't have the knowledge of what's there, or if they know about it, they don't have the time to seriously investigate it and find out if it's appropriate.
There's a lot of stuff thrown at them, also from big companies who are big money is in there, and they're wary of to some extent also of sort of the selling, I guess, right? I mean, because you guys are also subject to a lot of selling of the solution, the golden solution of all your problems.
That's very true. And there's catalogs and catalogs of instructional materials that are selling it in a way that they're really trying to sound like they do understand what's going on in the K-12 classroom. And Second Life is such a free-for-all, creative place. There's some research that's been done, a lot of research that's been done on K-12 schools. And one of the things is that, it's not a very creative place.
But that's due to class size. Come on, let's put the finger on it.
Also the climate, though, that, if you're a creative, risk-taking, adventurous teacher, you better get in line because they don't last, actually. The research shows 3 years and they're oftentimes gone. It's not the smartest teachers that survive. It's not the ones that even teach the best. It's the ones who conform, the ones who say, here's what the system is, and I'm going to shape my class according to what the administrators and the parents and the school district and the state and the nation. I mean, that's the problem, is you have all these stakeholders and they're all shouting at the teacher, telling them what they need to do. And then now in the United States, they're not really being backed by their principal. They're not really being backed by their parents. And so who's the ones that are going to stick with it?
Do you think that this will change when everybody has an Oculus Rift in the classroom, like Palmer Luckey thinks? I'm no sociologist, but it's what he sells, that vision is, I don't know.
I also have hope that this time around virtual reality is going to take hold. I think that looking at what is coming out on the market. We've got VR divisions being opened up. It really does look like we now might have a lot more of the essential DNA in place, but we still don't have the content.
Exactly, and we don't have tools for teachers to make it easy to make the content.
To recurse back to sort of my history, Drax, is working within the American Educational Research Association, SIG, which was ARVL, the Applied Research in Virtual Environments for Learning, which then became ARIEL, the Applied Research in Immersive Environments for Learning. This was because a lot of people doing video games and augmented reality didn't see themselves in the V. But the I worked.
That's all you guys do. You just sit around and you make up new names and you don't really work.
Yeah, right. We couldn't attract the people doing the relevant educational research in these other areas. We've asked them and they said, oh yeah, immersive would be better. We still were a small group of people doing educational research in these very kind of specific technology platforms, and we weren't getting the rest of the cadre together. It was all educational researchers, so it felt like we were delivering pizzas to each other. It was still worthwhile, but we needed the video game developers. We wanted people working on the computer scientists working on the hardware and software in order to really fully map out the DNA for what makes these immersive environments work. And so, although I'm still a part of AERA and this ARIEL SIG, with Chris Deedy's actually our honorary co-chair from the very beginning, which is awesome. So I've worked with him for a while. I stepped away to form the Immersive Learning Research Network.
But the practical goal, where is the practical goal of all this?
Well, the practical goal is mapping out and creating a consortium of all these various different disciplines to break down the disciplinary walls, because some people are here you are over in computer science talking about technical things. Architects and learning scientists are talking about a various number of things. And there's all kinds of connections between what they're talking about, but the language and the journals and all of the work that's being done, a lot of the development even, isn't coming together and converging so that we can all talk about the same things. So that's what we're trying to do, is break those barriers down and come together and work as one group of people, all focused on a public good, which would be what should we know? What should teachers know? What should students know? What should corporate trainers know about immersive learning in order for this new era to launch? That's what we're trying to do. So last summer we had our iLearn, the Immersive Learning Research Network's inaugural worldwide conference in Prague, Czech Republic. And that was part of an IEEE Ambient and Intelligent Environments Conference. And it went really well. We had like 45 attendees. And now this summer we have our second annual, and that'll be in Santa Barbara, California. And we just last night had our final deadline for papers. We've got about 40 academic papers that were submitted, which is really good. And like I said a minute ago, what we're really trying to do is kind of develop like a codex, an index of all of the academic research in different fields that are related to immersive learning, and develop examples that people can see and showcase that access for anybody who's interested in immersive learning.
Let's shift gears and go way into the past, because you are locally very famous because an article came out about going even further back than the year 2000.
Oh,
in terms of virtual reality. Can you summarize what was going on there with your father?
Yeah. So
we need to educate people. Virtual reality didn't start in 2013 with the Kickstarter of Oculus.
No. Actually, this was sort of my origin story. Going further back, I guess. My dad was a pharmacist and a local business owner. He came down to a economic development conference. I'm not sure if it was Helena or Bozeman, one of the larger towns in Montana, where he heard David Tang, who's a lawyer from Seattle, Bill Gates' dad's firm, actually. He wrote one word on the chalkboard for if Montanans wanted to increase tourism and develop the economy in Montana. It's a 6-letter word. He wrote COWBOY, cowboy. And he said, people all over the world are enamored by the cowboy. So my dad just wouldn't let go of the idea, and eventually he became the president or the chairman, not the president, of the Wild West World theme park. And we got the president of the World Water Park Association. We got Monty Montana Jr., who ran Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. We got some big marketing guys. I mean, we started going to the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. That's IAPA. A big trade show for all of the carnivals and theme parks and amusement parks that they hold every year. So we went to Atlanta to IAPA one year. I, slicked my hair back and had a briefcase and a tie, and I got onto the concept development of this, and eventually started actually making a few dollars. Separated from my dad, I was working with this guy, Wolf Virich, who was the president of the World Water Park Association.
So real quick, well, we're talking about a theme park, yeah, a theme park concept, and was the title Wild West World, was that in any way, shape, or form on purpose evoking a Westworld?
The Yul Brynner movie?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't, and I tried to dissuade the name Wild West World because of that, but my dad didn't understand, and
it's kind of a dystopian scenario.
But we had plans for the world's. We actually had architectural plans for the world's largest statue of a cowboy on facing one direction and a Native American facing the other direction. We were working with people to have the first Native American university with all of the tribes represented, including some of the tribes that no longer exist, language and the culture. Anyways, but I was in Atlanta and building the concepts for these things. There was a video game called Galaxy Force 2, I think. It was a virtual reality game. They had a number of virtual concepts. They had one where you could go inside of a submarine, and you're in Loch Ness, and one person operated one claw, then another person operated another claw. One person was the captain, and then somebody in the back operated the periscope, and the machine moved.
So that was a real physical machine. I mean, you're in the machine?
Yeah, you walk inside of it, and that was an amusement park ride that was at IAPA. I mean, greatest trade show ever. I mean, like IMAX was there, so that was one of them. But I walked up to this Galaxy Force 2.
And that was in the 90s. I was just going to put a rough
89.
time. 89, wow.
1989, yeah. Actually, there's a Associated Press picture of me playing this game. There's rapid turnover. People would try the game and leave, and I got up there and I played. Well, I tried to leave, and everybody was like, no, play again. And I was like, what? There's a line. They're like, everybody was like, no, play, because they wanted to watch. And so I played for a while, and a crowd kind of built around me. And as I exited finally after playing for a while, an Associated Press photographer asked me my name, and so I gave him my name, and that became the feature photo for all around the world. So I got newspapers from Singapore and Germany and a number of different places around the world in the U.S. With my photo playing this game for the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions annual conference.
You were the face of VR in the 1989.
Ultimately, our ideas for virtual reality with Wild West World, we were really trying to mix nature. I mean, this was a 1 million acre park that we were trying to create with wildlife and some some VR, some significant VR, some ideas at the time that still would work amazingly now. But it was we were way too in front of the curve. We couldn't convince the board members that this was even remotely realistic, even with the $1 billion seed investment and the timeline that would have taken to do that. We were saying, hey, VR is gonna be there. It's gonna catch up. And those businessmen were correct that, VR didn't come to fruition like people thought back in the early 90s.
What were some of the ideas?
We wanted to create a set of video games and virtual reality experiences that we could populate around the world to get people playing the game and becoming somebody from the Old West, whether it's a Native American or an immigrant American. So playing these different roles so that when they came to Wild West World, they already had experience and a level, and they would know what to do. They would have a role. And so we wanted to sort of prepare them. You could actually teach them about some of the native cultures, native language, or how to survive in different things. And even if it was just surface material, you could really captivate their imaginations. And then when they got there was a number of things that we wanted to use with VR. Like we wanted a stagecoach, like that Loch Ness Monster thing. We wanted a stagecoach that you could get in. There'd be grizzly bears and there'd be all kinds of things.
But this is really a brilliant idea. So basically, I could be at home. I could play this game, and then I would not only maybe get into this game, but I also would be really enticed into coming to Montana for a physical vacation.
Right. And then you are exposed to and we somehow the company knows given your profile. The kinds of experiences you have, you might dress a certain way, or just lapels or something that would indicate it, and then your experience would be customized around that profile.
Damn, that is really a damn good idea. So, but did the park ever open, or? Well,
a number of the board members. First of all, Wolf Virich kind of bankrolled all of these meetings. We went to all these places all over the United States, looking at potential places, talking to people who were speculating about maybe investing in something on it. And
wait a minute. So we got to clarify. So it was planned to distribute it to make many parks in different areas in the U.S., not only Montana.
Montana was probably not on the short list of possible places because there's just no major international airports. So we had a list of criteria. Denver, although that's too high up, people get nosebleeds. New Mexico, Nevada, even California was on. So we were looking at all these places because we wanted to sort of we need a big chunk of land that we could somehow through magic or by physicality make it look and feel like a miniature map of North America, right? You got to have the Pacific Ocean and you have to have the Mississippi River, and then they crop. So the start of the park was New York, St. Louis, the colonies, and then you go across the Mississippi at St. Louis and head west, young man. And, looking at, at different land masses versus, all of the amenities that we would have to put together, the hotels. So Wolf bankrolled all of this. And so he said, we've had a really good time. We're getting someplace. We've got some blueprints. We've got some, but to really put this together, we're going to need to get to the next spot. I need everybody to invest. So everybody needs to put down $10,000. And about half the board ponied up the cash, and the other half didn't. So that was it.
What would you do now? I mean, could this be done now? What came to mind when you were talking about this is there's a theme park concept in Utah called the Void. I don't know if you read about it, but it's fascinating. You have an Oculus on, and they built an environment where you have the virtual experience in the goggles, but your physical reality, you can touch things. You walk downstairs, or you go into a lift of a spaceship, but then actually the lift pretends that you go all the way down.
And there's now Oculus Rift roller coasters now. It's giving your body all of that proprioceptor feedback that...
I'll give you $10,000 and then we'll do it. maybe a little bit more required, I guess. Okay, your outlook, dystopia is virtual reality, the empathy machine, or is it just the next step in us completely checking out in a world that is going to shits? I'm reading Infinite Jest actually right now. I'm on page 98. It's the convergence of everything. So the tech people will tell you, dystopia, that's for the people who want to sell books. There needs to be drama in there. But I do think it's the verdict is out. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but I see this so enticing that I see a lot of dangers there for sure. Interestingly enough, all the stuff that people say about Second Life, Second Life is going to be a very mild addiction when we talk about the next iteration, because it's just completely lifelike and it's just very enticing.
Well, I think that part of it is that the work to make these virtual immersive environments nutritional, that's hard work. And it does require research, because we're moving out of watching something on a flat screen to being embodied within an ecosystem of interactive objects like the real world, and that all that programming has to happen, and it has to happen in a way that matches to something that's meaningful and to the person's everyday life. There's psychosis, and there's sex, and there's drugs, and there's insanity. That's simple to do, but the hard part is making it meaningful and educational. But I think it's possible, and that's what I learned with Ariel Sig. Ariel Sig just signed a memo of agreement with us, so we're now partners. And that's the thing, we're a network, so we're looking for anybody out there or any organization out there who wants to collaborate with us within the network to develop that. So that's what I would like to use this space for, is to get those people, to get those organizations involved.
That leads me back to Second Life. I mean, I talked to John Lester, Pathfinder Linden, and he is very public about regretting that a lot of technology companies don't seem to find it important to have a liaison on staff, basically, that talks to people like you, for instance, right?
Well, I mean, personally, I think it's. I mean, that's a good start, but probably insufficient, because as you get in there, the technology part is actually not the hardest part. It's difficult to create those technologies. The hardest part, like I said, is the figuring out what's the instructional design and how do you create high quality content in those virtual spaces that is then going to be served to these learners in a way that is meaningful for them. That is hard. And it takes a ton of work. There's so many examples in Second Life of thousands of hours of work that have just not panned out. And I think it's because of the scale and effort that goes into the design. Even game developers with millions of dollars, they shy away from education. They say because the money's not there, but that's, I think, bullshit. The reason they're doing it is because there's tensions between fun and learning. Some things that you learn are fun, but some things that you learn that you need to know, it's hard to figure out how to make it fun.
Right. And maybe also the message has to be transported that it can't always be 100% fun. And there is no magic bullet how to bring this across to a wide range of learners, I guess. It's also, I mean, the diversity of learners, I think, is the issue that you're also hinting at when we just create a one-size-fits-all kind of thing that we already do in the physical world.
Yeah, and so, how do we actually use these tool sets to create immersive environments that are customizable and work for all these different learners to actually achieve substantial learning objectives in ways that actually are measurable. I mean, unfortunately, education does want to see progress. If it's not measurable, you could at least, have a portfolio that says, here's where I was, here's where I am now.
All right, there you have it. Ending on a little bit depressing or hopeful, depending how you look at it, note. Jonathan Richter on pretty much everything from VR theme parks on a grand scale to small scale classroom VR. Interesting, and I'm going to link to this article also. I did read last week that teachers on average, I think it was a survey in the US, quit within 5 years, and John said something like 3 years. I mean, the enthusiastic ones.
I could barely manage a week.
I think a day, and then you start hitting the kids over the head with your ruler.
You get fired for that these days, don't you? It's insane.
I know. That's the reason why
you hit children anymore. That's the reason education is such a mess.
Now I know what you guys do Sundays in 1920s Berlin at the Hindenburg Schule.
Yep, our children get hit.
Joe, I just got an email from Ebbe said, "I'm sorry, we just had to take 1920s Berlin down because of hitting children in schools."
Well, see, at least that is a quite clear example. At least now we understand. And we'll just move our hitting children simulator.
Move it to OpenSim. They take you.
They don't care.
Okay, listeners, listen. You heard it here first. Don't hit children in school, or your sim will get taken offline. John also talks about these VR arcade games, and I found some hilarious videos that were linked on the blog of a VR expo in London in 1991 with those huge bulky headsets.
I have actually I have tried a VR headset in the 90s. I think.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely. In one of those gaming halls. That's my first experience with VR. It was very exciting.
I never tried any of these things. What was I doing in the 90s? Damn.
Well, not in an arcade, apparently.
I was not in an arcade. I was in my mom's basement, though.
Yes, I used to go out.
All right, that's the end of the show. Don't forget to pick up your I Want to Believe shirt from the Dragster Marketplace. And also, join us Sunday at midnight. I don't know. I think it's 1 a.m. 1 a.m. SLT. Arden Schwartzman and I are sitting in the welcome area, Ahern or otherwise, and we are talking about what happened this week. And we welcome noobs to come and sit on our coffee table, and it is very funny. We stream on YouTube for an hour, and it's the most hilarious stuff is happening. You can imagine. And the welcome, the Ahern is really not that busy, so it's not as crazy as you might imagine. But come on down. Maybe this Sunday we'll take a detour, and we're not going to do Ahern, but we're going to go to Donald Trump's mansion. Isabel Stewart from Second Life has discovered that there is a Trump mansion in Second Life.
Dear Lord.
Last words, Joe. What are you doing? You're building something?
Yeah, I'm building my shop. I'm building a new shop, brand new building for all my old bohemian poor people's furniture.
Very good. That's what they need. Poor people need more furniture.
I've got the best opium beds in Second Life.
I know, it's against the terms of service. Next Dragster Book Club is May 15th. We're going to read Otherland. Actually, you should start reading it now. There's also books on tape. Tad Williams, it's been recommended by Fam Nutra. Otherland, the first, I think it's a series of 4 books, but we're going to be discussing the first one, and that's May 15th, so there's plenty of time, and it's happening at the Pen, marvelous little cafe in Bay City. And that's it for the show. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Extraordinary Fine Magical Goods, Ionic, Maven Homes, Giza Creations, Botanical, Strawberry Sig, Humanoid Animations, Abranimations, Eros Avatars, Carvel Design, The Cube Republic, the Avazines Publication Family, What Next, Dutchy Furniture, Landscapes Unlimited, Bay Cities You Know for Kids, Dwarfins, Fallen Gods Incorporated, Feroce SL, and Death Row Designs. Contact the show via Skype, DraxFiles, Avatar, DraxFiles, or email radio@draxfiles.com.